All right, welcome into the Illini Inquirer Podcast. The regular season is over, so we decided let's bring in our two experts, Isaac Trotter, CBSSports.com, Mike LaTulip, our Illini Inquirer basketball analyst. You can see him on CBS Sports Network, doing a lot of great games here recently. Welcome, boys. I can't wait to break this all down. We're going to do a little bit about Illinois. We'll go across the Big Ten, and then we'll do our annual Big Ten tournament draft to kind of preview the conference tournaments as we look ahead to March. I wished Mike a happy March last week. So Isaac Trotter, happy March. How are you, buddy?
Doing well. Yeah, this is just utter survival time for, I think, college basketball teams and college basketball media. It just never stops here for the next, 3 weeks. And here we go. Big Ten tournament this week, Selection Sunday in 6 days. And this is like the time where I feel like it's just a test. It's like the test is like 6 days away, and you're kind of cramming every ounce of information over the next 72 to 48, 72 hours.
Mike, I can't imagine what this feeling is like as a player. What's it like as a media member now?
As a media member, balancing multiple jobs, it's a lot. But it's weird being on the other side of it for sure. But it still excites you all the same. I think almost more so in a way, because there aren't any real consequences for me at this point. So I'm just enjoying it.
A little less pressure. Plus you get to watch all of it, right? As a player, I can't imagine you got to watch much of it.
No, I mean, I think the only stuff you really watch, I mean, if there's a big game on and you happen to be with all the guys and it's on, great. Like, I'm not going out of my way to be like, I got to go back and watch Bama Auburn from last night. That's got more of a luxury to do that nowadays.
All right, let's start before we dive into Illinois and their regular season as a total. Let's talk about the last week of the regular season, recap it a little bit. Blowout win over Oregon. Then it was a little dicey at Maryland. So, Isaac, we had pitched this as a get-right week. Did Illinois get right? What'd you think of their last week?
I just thought it was more survival. I think especially for a lot of teams in the last week of the regular season when you're not playing for a title anymore, I think across the landscape of the sport, you saw a lot of teams just kind of be like, we just got to get through these games. I think there says something to be able to win games when you don't necessarily play your best. And for long stretches against Oregon, I didn't think Illinois was great. And then they kind of pulled away and put it together. Maryland, I felt like they kind of let some of the role players get going for Maryland a little bit, made some tough shots, but you still find a way to kind of grind the game out. At this point, it's just you're on to March. We don't have a bad loss on the resume after last week. I wouldn't say the staff is probably leaving going, man, we really cleaned up all of our issues right now. But at the same time, I think you feel like, hey, we've crossed our bridge. We're season two. Step 2 of 3 is done. And now we go into step 3, and you don't have any horrible losses here from the last week, even if you didn't necessarily feel all of the warm and fuzzies after Oregon and Maryland.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think Isaac nailed it. I think this was a handle business type of week, and I thought they handled business. And I won't ever overlook winning on the road in the Big Ten. I know that sounds like a cliche, and I know Maryland's not very good, but I thought Maryland put forth their probably best 40 minutes that they've maybe put together all season. So to withstand that, and then to ride a 2-game winning streak into the postseason. I think when I was at Illinois, we always used to have like a clear delineation, I guess, between we called our non-conference season 1, we called our conference season 2, and then we called postseason play. We called the Big Ten tournament season 3, and then season 4 was the NCAA tournament, because I think it just allows you to like focus on the task at hand. And I'm excited to see what this group can do, because like Isaac said, no bad losses. I mean, the Wisconsin game, it's like they're going and they're beating everybody. So no bad losses. Certainly kept yourself on the 2 line this week, and probably have insulated yourself pretty well to stay there, maybe regardless of the outcome in Chicago.
Did the latter straddle the 2 seasons? I can't remember, Mike.
I was not there for the ladder.
Okay, that was the year after.
Yeah,
just the infamous ladder that John Gross brought out there. Isaac, do you remember? I can't remember. I think it was season 2 and season 3. It straddled those.
I just remember watching some of those YouTube videos that they're still around here somewhere if you find them with the ladder. No comment on future ladder uses.
Yeah, just had to make that. All right, let's recap this Illinois regular season, boys. Mike, I'll start with you. How would you grade Illinois basketball's regular season? They go 24-7, 15-5 in the Big Ten, 8-2 on the road in the Big Ten, 7-3 at home.
What kind of grading scale are we talking about here?
A through F.
I'm gonna go a very firm A. And what I'm most impressed with, and you just mentioned it, Jeremy, was how this group performed on the road in conference play. 8-2, and absolutely should have been 9-1. And so to me, that's the difference between being a 2 seed and really being like a 4-5 seed, if you think about it. You take care of business at Ohio State. Purdue didn't do that. You take care of business at Iowa. Nebraska didn't do that. You take care of business at Nebraska. Michigan State didn't do that. I mean, you were able to get wins, crucial wins at those places. And that, to me, that's ultimately how you end up finding yourself in a triple bye situation, finding yourself on the 2-3 line in the NCAA tournament. That's how it's done. So that takes a certain mental makeup to do that and to get to the next game. And then my hope is that for this group that has performed well away from home this season, they can just continue to roll with that and capture that as we get into postseason play.
Yeah, Isaac, they were projected to finish 4th in the Big Ten. They tie for 2nd. They were projected preseason 6 and 8 in the KenPom and Evan Maya rankings. They finished number 9 in the AP Top 25. So what's your grade?
Mine was a little bit lower than Mike. So I was in that B+ A- range only because I felt like this was a roster that you felt could win the national or the Big Ten title. And you felt like you were not quite on that level compared to the Michigans of the world, especially when it felt also like you could have controlled some of those things too. You had a really frustrating couple overtime losses that I felt like if you're able to get over the hump in some of those, just kind of grind them out at the end, you could have put yourself in a different position to add a banner to this group. So I think that's kind of where I was at. Like, I feel like it would have been hard for me to give an A to a group that doesn't win the Big Ten title when you felt like you could win one. That's the only reason. And also you had a few missed opportunities early in non-conference play as well that I think could kind of hold me from giving you an A or an A+. But overall, this team exceeded expectations. And I think the cool part about the regular season is that they did it in ways that we were not predicting in October. Like the Keaton Wagler emergence has been really a kind of a feather in their cap with their recruiting, and is, I think, something that will stay with Tyler Underwood's resume forever. And then the David Mirkovich emergence as well too is something that I didn't expect from the preseason at all. And so, like, to exceed expectations, to put yourself in position to be a tier 1A type of national championship contender, I think speaks to the quality of the roster that you put together. But I just couldn't get to an A because I felt like if an A grade for me would be a team that was competing for the Big Ten championship in the final week, and Illinois didn't take care of business to do that.
Mike, did you want to follow up?
Yeah, I mean, Michigan's just that's
high bar.
They're in such a different stratosphere, and we'll obviously talk about them at some point here. But to me, I mean, some of the points you mentioned, Isaac, were the reason why I went to an A, because you look at Tomislav this year, you look at, Kylan in a way this year. Stojakovic has probably been more up and down than we anticipated. And it all goes back to, these other guys that you've had. What does your season look like if you don't have a Keaton Wagler, if you don't have a David Mirkovich? So that's a feather in their cap just from a recruiting standpoint. And for those guys to step up and kind of grab that's what put it into the A category for me, was like a lot of other teams that maybe rely on a couple freshmen, or a lot of other teams that rely on, like, hey, here's our returners. Like if Nebraska got Sanford and Sanford just, maybe underperformed, or if Rink Mast, who kind of has in a way, if he had just completely underperformed, but like that's what do those seasons look like for those teams? And so I'm trying to think of like the whole piece of the pie here, and I'm trying not to really put them up against that Michigan team, because if that Michigan team is not a thing, you're looking at, a potential tie at the top and maybe a share of the title.
And that's an A+ season for Michigan, right? And an A+ off season. Like, they didn't miss. They didn't miss. Like,
they didn't.
Illinois did miss. Like, Mihailo Petrovic did not make an impact here. Andrei Stojakovic did not make as big of an impact. Part of that was because of David and Keaton Wagler. But Illinois had some misses. Losing Merez Johnson was a miss, but the way they were able to make up for it with some of those hits, Isaac, was pretty amazing.
No question. And I think that does speak to like the type of new age roster building that I think is starting to emerge. And Illinois feels like they're kind of on the forefront of that, where it's like, how many outs do you have built into your roster? And so like, I think Illinois has a lot more outs built in with their roster building this year and moving forward. And like, I think you could argue that this is the most talented roster that Brad has put together. So I think if you want to say like, hey, like that's an A type of season because you've added in like all of this talent, like I understand that. I just feel like there was like it felt like this team in this regular season was really, really close to being 28-3 or 29-2. And that's the slim margins of Big Ten basketball play in an era, or this year especially, where there's excellent guard play and just excellent rosters near the top of the league. But this group was really, really close to being 28-3. And if they play like a 28-3 team in the next 4 weeks of the season, we're going to be on a multiple podcasts here for a while.
I'm right in between you guys. Like I'm with you. I had A-. That's what I had written down, just because there was a little bit more I thought they could have had, but still just a fantastic season. One of the best under Brad Underwood. All right, next topic. I think we can all agree Keaton Walker is the MVP of this team and David Mirkovic is number 2. None of us would have said that in the preseason. So my question to you, who would be number 3 in your MVP voting for this team? And if you want to talk about Wagler and Mirkovic, we kind of hit on him there, but Isaac, I'll let you go first.
Mine would be Kylan Boswell, even though he drives me nuts sometimes. I just think that like the defense, the rim pressure is something that you really need. I think he gives you a different feel when he's on the floor. It feels like he kind of connects the dots for you because you have that second ball handler out there. I still don't trust him on his pull-up threes. Like every single time he takes a pull-up three, I kind of die a little bit inside, and I don't really know why. That's the shot that they go with there. But for the most part, I think that Boswell has been one of their most consistent players this year on a night-to-night basis, because I feel like I know what I'm getting from him every single night. The good, the bad, the ugly, I know what I'm getting from Kylan Boswell, and I feel like he's been their third in the MVP pecking order.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, he's third. Kylan's third. And really because all the reasons Isaac mentioned, and I feel like there's still more in there defensively for him. I'm just trying to think that if he wasn't there at all, that point of attack defense would be really rough. Yeah, I mean it would be really rough. So he's in there. He's third. I had an honorable mention that I honestly thought of making third. I honestly thought about it. I thought of making third the combination of Jake and Ben.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I had written down. This is a conversation to kind of get.
It's like 60% Jake, 40% Ben.
Yeah. Like that combo has patched together so much, especially when, and I know, Ben gets put in a tough spot sometimes. I mean, 6'9" guarding Diggy Coit yesterday, but the fact that when you look down the roster and it probably after Kylan, and this is just like the feeling that I get after Kylan, Ben is like the next guy I trust defensively, which is kind of, you could look at that and maybe say that's a downside, but I think he competes. He's gotten so much better as a rebounder. It's felt like this year, making all the winning plays. I talked about that Nebraska game. I thought he really had a big hand in winning you that Nebraska game with 3 or 4 big time winning plays in the second half. And then the way Jake stepped in and what he's done for this offense, just having another spacer on the backside. He gets off the ball. He's like the definition of a 0.5 second type of player. And that's helped so much. And I just don't think this Illinois team is where they're at without the combination of those two. I wouldn't put one or the other in that third spot, but those two together has just been incredibly valuable.
I think you're both right with Boswell as 3. I think he's, that kind of player for them. But I did want to shout those two out because Jake was such a steadying influence through those injuries. Andre out, he steps in the starting lineup. Kylan out, he steps in the starting lineup. And offensively, they only got better with him, right? And then Ben just doing all those little things. I just think everyone's kind of appreciated him this year, which has been great to see because he has given his all. He's kind of changed his game to kind of suit what the team needs. And you mentioned, Mike, just steadying, connecting, and just fills a lot of the gaps that this roster doesn't otherwise have. You got anything else, Isaac, on that?
Yeah, for those two guys, I just think that, like, how many times you see them make mistakes. You don't see mistakes from them. And I think that type of mental fortitude and toughness from both of those is there. And then when you watch Illinois in person, Jake gives them an edge. Like, he has a swagger that he brings to the floor that's a little bit different. And I think that has really helped them. And then Ben, I feel like, is just so calm. So it's like that kind of like that. They oscillate back and forth between Jake's edge and Ben's calmness. Like, just kind of feels like it just is like almost like the perfect little splash of something different that this group has needed. And I agree, they're not where they're at without both those dudes.
Mike, one thing like yesterday, you're noticing like there's kind of just a lack of energy at some points. Besides David Mirkovic, Jake brought some fire, some passion. Ben just brings effort. Like it's just, the effort is always there. So with those guys, I never have to question that.
And those guys, to me, those guys are more than just, hey, they try hard. Yeah. Like, I think the biggest superpower you can have as a player is understanding exactly who you are, because it allows you to be your most efficient basketball self. And these are two guys who, both Ben and Jake, are top 15 in America in offensive rating. And both Jake and Ben are top 10 nationally in turnover percentage. I mean, that is, if you wanted to script a role player, that is exactly how it should be. Don't make mistakes. Be additive on both ends. That is insanely valuable.
This episode of the Illini Inquirer Podcast is brought to you by Columbia Street Roastery. Go visit our friends at Columbia Street Roastery if you live in town in Champaign-Urbana, or if you don't, visit them at csrcoffee.com. I've told you guys one of my favorite things about covering Illinois football games in the fall at Memorial Stadium is they have Columbia Street Roastery cold brew and nitro brew on tap up there. Well, you don't have to cover Illini football to get access to their cold brew, because they sell them in cans at csrcoffee.com. It's a smooth cold brew, easy to drink, and great for on the go. If you like iced tea as well, Columbia Street Roastery has great iced tea packs to make freshly brewed iced tea at home. You can try all their different flavors, including Fiesta Mexicana, a sangria-like flavor with fruits of mango, lime, strawberry, orange, and peach, or just go with their traditional. It's a good, smooth, traditional black iced tea. Go to csrcoffee.com now and get 10% off your first order with code Illini all the way. That's code Illini all the way to get 10% off your first order with code Illini all the way at csrcoffee.com. You also get free shipping on orders of over $45. So go visit our friends at Columbia Street Roastery at csrcoffee.com. All right, let's look ahead to the postseason, guys. Mike, I'll let you start here. What's the reason you have most confidence in Illinois entering the postseason?
Well, there's a couple. I think I'm definitely confident in them because they come into March just like that 23-24 team with just a very multiple elite traits. One, what they've been able to do offensively. I mean, we've seen it, whether it's Keaton, them playing out of ball screens if you want to put two on the ball, whether it's Maryland switching yesterday and let's go to Mirkovic, and then now they're going to trap and let's play out of it. Let's bring Tommy up. Let's, Kylan getting downhill as a second or third side driver. Like this offense has so many different entry points into the paint. And I thought that was on display yesterday. And then the offensive rebounding, I think they just do such a good job of winning those margins. And that when you talk about a single elimination tournament, that gives me a lot of hope for this group. And I actually think, they're in a better spot defensively than that 23-24 team was at this juncture. So yeah, those are the reasons why I'm most excited for March.
I would throw in the size too. That's something that I think it makes them almost upset proof in the first round, especially if you're going up against 15 seeds. It's just like it's really hard to beat a team this big. Feels like your margin for error is really large against mid-major teams. And then the other part about it too is like, just to kind of make it dumb, I feel like Keaton can win you 2 games and Merck can win you 2 games and Andre could probably win you 1 game. And so like when you have different guys like that can kind of go out and win you some of those games with different recipes. And I like the word entry points there, just like finding different ways to poke at a defense. That versatility offensively is something, along with that size, that very few teams can go against. And I think like when you've seen Illinois at its worst this year, it's because the personnel for the other teams are awesome. And you're not going to have to see some of those awesome personnel for the first 2 or 3 rounds. And I think that gives you a real chance to make the second weekend. I'd be stunned if this group is into the second weekend, all things considered.
It's just the answers offensively. Kind of parroting off of you guys, Mike. Like, it's just that, you want to double team Keaton Wagler. He's going to make the right decision, and somebody else is going to be open. You want to put it in Keaton's struggling. You put in the ball in Davin Mirkovic's hands. If you're struggling to shoot, you got Andrei Stojakovic and Colin Boswell can attack the rim. Keaton Wagler can attack the rim. Just so many answers here.
Yeah, and it's what we've talked about. Both points you just mentioned, I think, and we talked about maybe last week, just how their ability to take care of lesser teams this year is such a good signal for the NCAA tournament. And so the size you mentioned, Isaac, I had it written down here as well. Just really raises your floor in March. So we'll see what happens in the Big Ten tournament. That can get weird, but certainly for the NCAA tournament. And Trotter, you mentioned Stojakovic potentially winning them a game in March. I mean, he's like the wing Dane Danger against mid-majors. So I would imagine in that if they have a 15-2 game or something like that, I wouldn't be surprised if Stojakovic poured in 23 or 24 points. That wouldn't shock me at all.
I'm running with that. Wing Dane Danger. Like that. That's kind of perfect kind of comp because you don't know when you'll need it, but at some point you're going to need it, Mike.
Yep.
Let me give you one Big Ten tournament thing here real quick when you brought it up. If you lose in the Big Ten tournament, the narrative will be, well, we saved our legs for March, right? If you are able to win. If you win the Big Ten tournament and then go on a run, it's because you got hot in the Big Ten tournament. So just keep those narratives in your back pocket if you need it. Like those are your get out of jail free cards moving forward.
Mike, I think people could hear your eyes rolling when he said save the legs.
So it's because there's so much recency bias in that. I think in 2021, Illinois wins and loses to Loyola. In 2022, Iowa wins and loses to Richmond, right? And then in 2023, Purdue wins and loses to FDU. So this narrative gets created where it's like, you don't want to win a single damn game in the Big Ten tournament. But when you go pre-COVID, it is such a good signal for March success. And, you look at the past couple years. I mean, I think Purdue won it the year they went to the title game, right? And then
Illinois
last year, and then obviously Illinois goes to the Elite Eight in 24. And so, yeah, like that to me is a good, is a really good, actually, no, it would have been 24 Purdue lost, right?
Yeah, 24 they lost because they lost to
Michigan State, I think.
Lost to Michigan State. They lost to Michigan State.
Wisconsin, because Illinois.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Because then Illinois got Wisconsin in the title game. Yeah. And then 2025 last year was Michigan, who went to a Sweet 16, drew Auburn. So you want to win. The stat that I need confirmation on that I've seen over the past few days, is it true that a 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament hasn't won a game since 2019?
Oh, wow.
Does that even matter when now we have 18 teams in? That's my other question. Because it's so different.
I think the point is that you'll play most times at you're playing that next best team.
Yeah.
And that next best team likely has a win under their belt, or someone has even more momentum beating that next best team and then getting you. So I would have to, I'll maybe leave that to the audience. I don't know. I saw that somewhere and I'm looking back. I'm like, oh, there might be some truth to that.
I'll effort that here in a moment. Isaac, I'll give you this. Biggest cause for concern for Illinois heading into the postseason here.
A couple of things that I've noticed. It's just like this team can feel a little lethargic, I think, for stretches. And I don't know if I love that heading into March. I think there's times where I feel like Illinois just doesn't make teams super uncomfortable. And that is something that, like, if you start lethargic and then you are you kind of parlay that with you don't make teams super uncomfortable at times, it can be like, hey, like it's the middle of the first half and teams are feeling really good about themselves. Hey, it's early in the second half and teams are still feeling really good about themselves. So those are some of the concerns I think moving forward. But at the same time, like we can get into the nitty gritty of like, oh, can this team guard against, elite, speedy guards and stuff like that? Like that stuff doesn't matter. It really more to me kind of comes down to like, how turned up is this group and how connected are they? And are they playing with their hair on fire? Because when Illinois plays with their hair on fire, I think they can beat and play with anybody. And when they're not tuned up like that, I think like there's like that time where I feel like you could maybe see some undermanned teams feel really, really comfortable just because of how the defensive structure is set up.
Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. I think at times sometimes when I view maybe a lack of bite, or I don't want to say really a lack of effort, but when you feel like maybe the energy isn't where you need it to be, sometimes for this group, and this is just the reality of it, sometimes it's sometimes a function of what their defense is. And so there almost needs to be even more of a concerted effort to be more active, to be more physical, because you're just a naturally conservative defense as it is. Like no one watches Houston and in the first 10 minutes of the game is like, man, they just don't really because they're always blowing up ball screens and they're rotating and they're scrambling around. So it's almost like it can fool you sometimes as a viewer. I mean, I almost felt that yesterday when then like you have to kind of check yourself and be like, all right, what shots are they forcing? Maryland got 3 shots at the rim the entire first half.
Yep.
They made 71% of their mid-range shots. They were 5 of 7. They were 5 of 10 from above the break from 3, which is really the threes that you want to end up forcing so that you don't get knifed and get corner, drive and kick corner threes. So the game plan worked. Maryland made shots, but like there's still that next gear, I think, for this team, even though you're in a conservative defense, to still, and I thought Keaton did a really good job of this, like stunning in gaps, being just aggressive in gaps. That's where it's got to be for this group. Because I will say that first line of defense in the defense, like how you manage getting around screens. I thought Stojakovic yesterday, he struggled a little bit keeping the ball in front in the second half, just straight line drives. How are you going to go under screens, over screens, and whatever the game plan is, don't be so this is going to, if a coach hears this, they're not going to love this, but don't be so married to the game plan, or I should say not the game plan, the scouting report, that you kind of lose your mind in terms of like what is actually the most efficient way to guard on this possession. Like if I'm Kylan Boswell and Diggy Coit can shoot the basketball, if that screen's set at 31 feet, probably don't have to go over, even though Diggy Coit is a guy you want to go over on.
Yeah.
Find him under and get the angles. And, sometimes I think teams understand that Kylan really wants to pressure the ball at 28 to 30 feet. And Coit got a little like flip off the glass or fouled, I think, on a drive late just because I thought he pressured the ball too much. So they have to find that balance. But I will say, for all the talk about this defense, since February 1st, they're 23rd nationally. And everybody's grouping Illinois and Purdue in the same bucket. They're like, oh, they're rolling in the same bucket because Illinois and, they're great offenses and like you don't trust them a lot defensively. Purdue is in another stratosphere in terms of defensive concern.
Illinois protects the rim, right?
Their shit, yeah. Purdue's shit is crazy right now. They're like, I'm watching their staff sit there and be like, oh my God, everywhere you don't want to help from, they help from. It's over helping. It's rotating too much. And then they're not athletic enough for the size we talked about this Illinois team. They're not athletic enough and have enough size to recover in those situations. So Wisconsin just absolutely laces them from deep. So, and Purdue's 73rd nationally in that same time frame. So we're talking about two different animals here. So the only concern I have is the energy that you bring into a game, knowing you play a conservative style of defense, and just the defense overall. That has to be really the only one or two.
Isaac, I can throw it back to you, but Mike, how do you manufacture that then? How do you manufacture that energy and bite?
Yeah, it's not tying it to what the arena feels like. It's not tying it to your opponent. I thought there was a little bit of that yesterday, where that's a big arena. You were there, Jeremy, right?
It was
not the best.
Empty.
Yeah, not the best environment. So just generating your own energy. I think these guys are going to be ready to go. I really do. I think they're going to be ready to go in Chicago. I think they're going to be ready to go in the NCAA tournament. And then would you guys say that one other concern, and I'm not concerned about it, but it should be mentioned. Just, for how much you've relied on Keaton to this point.
I was going to bring it up, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned. I'm not concerned with his decision making. I'm concerned with, is he banged up? Because his back was stiff. He's had a shoulder. He's had a hip. Teams are being really physical with him. I think he's frustrated with some of the non-calls. He's just a little timid in some of these first halves here recently. And I just want that guy confident. I want him taking a 3 when somebody sags off from 3 feet. He's passing those up a little bit more, and then they're just not going in as much. But I loved his second half, how aggressive he was. He just missed some open shots. But Isaac, they need that guy to be special, because him being special is what helped them on a 12-game winning streak, helped them win at Nebraska and at Purdue.
Yeah, I had it in my notes too. You have a lot riding on a freshman guard. And I think a lot of times in March, and I was going to say the same thing, and their second most important offensive player is a freshman. And so I think a lot of times in March, you can see like some of the warts start to come in, especially in like those short preps, those quick turnarounds. Like there's just a lot riding on Keaton Wagler. Of course, Illinois is the best version of itself when Wagler's on the floor. Of course, Illinois is a national championship contender because they have a first-round guard, right? Like that opens up different avenues for you. But I think just finding his swagger again is something can come back pretty quickly. I think, too, we've seen that. I think of Walter Clayton Jr. last year, like just that little surge of confidence that he had. And then he was walking on the floor being like, hey, there is no one on the planet who can guard me. No one. And so I think like finding a little bit more of like just getting him a little bit more easier shots, mixing in some off-ball stuff would be really, really important. I think Kylan Boswell's decision-making moving forward is going to be enormous, because that accesses, a little bit more ways for Keaton to get some touches. Those are just little things there, because it just does feel like there's a lot on Keaton's plate, and you just kind of wonder like, man, you've aced all of these tests so far. Like how much more can we realistically expect from you?
Mike, and I think it's why Kylan is huge. Tommy is huge. David, like just other guys stepping up to fill that if he has an off game.
I think the way to help him is, because there were like 2 or 3 instances yesterday, and I will say Illinois really slowed their pace down. I think we know that at this point. That's a lot of half-court defenses you got to go against. Set half-court defenses every single possession. I mean, that can be a lot for a guy like Keaton. And so I just wonder if there's an avenue, and it doesn't have to be just all of a sudden you completely change your identity. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying, if there was a situation yesterday where Kylan got a defensive rebound or maybe got an outlet and was out by half court, and it to me, it looked like a clear 3-on-2. And they've just kind of been programmed to be like, pull it out, let's get into our stuff. And I just think there's opportunities there to go and maybe steal a few easier buckets. And I think that will just kind of take the pressure off having to, and it's a number one offense in the country for a reason, but that will take the pressure off of having to like manufacture over and over again in the half court, even though they're really, really good at it. I think just being able to recognize when those moments are coming, and particularly for Kylan, because Kylan, we saw it against Michigan, like if he can get out, secondary transition, get to the front of the rim, I think that just takes some of the pressure off of Keaton.
Isaac, I'll give you
Stojakovic too.
6 of his least 8 efficient performances since that UConn game for Keaton have come in the last 8 games. So still Illinois during that stretch, the number 5 offense in the country, but they need to be elite to make that run, because that's where they were. So any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it goes back to kind of reprogramming your brain to go away from the game plan a little bit sometimes too, of just like, hey, when we have openings in transition, like we can take those. And, it's so weird to me, like their pivot back, because like Brad, like for so long, I feel like every press conference is like, well, the most efficient shot is in the first 8 seconds of the shot clock, blah, blah, blah. Like I could rattle that off. Like that's what it is. And so to see them like kind of pull that back at times is a little bit different. I think with Keaton too, like we saw it last year with KJ. KJ ran out of gas a little bit down the stretch. You're going to have some other guys find ways to step up. But I still think that like Keaton, even when he's not playing his most efficient basketball, like he just is so wired the right way to create such good shots that I think Illinois' offense can still be terrific, even if it isn't the Keaton Wagler show. And when they get the ball moving, they're nasty.
Yeah, Mike, I still like his decision-making.
I do as well, because I think there's a world where this team advances to a Sweet 16 and Keaton Wagler doesn't eclipse the 12-point mark in either of those games. just because he's so additive in everything else that he does. Just having him out there, it draws attention from opposing defenses. We talked about him making the right decision, making the right play. You know, there's probably been in the last 8 games compared to maybe the previous 8 games, I'd say there have been more moments than those previous 8 games where I felt like, hey, that one was maybe a little rushed, or that one was maybe a little bit forced. And so maybe that's just a product of, you know, a kid that's had a lot of success being like, how far can I take this?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like I kind of get it from that standpoint.
His handle isn't elite. Like, we can say that. We know that. Like, that's a huge part of his game. And I think that's some of the, like, the scouts are getting better. I think the Big Ten is probably the best scouted league still. Like, they're all over that. Like, they're all over that. So I think some of his gathers, his pickups have been in kind of some awkward spots lately, and he has to find a way to kind of get that back under control.
I said it yesterday, but one of the great things about the postseason, once you get past the Big Ten tournament, you get to the NCAA tournament, you're not playing Big Ten teams anymore. So I think that's a big positive for Illinois moving forward. All right, I'll try to go quick through some of these. Isaac, I'll give you this first one. One more big key for the Illini in March.
I think it comes back to the bigs and how well these bigs can keep shooting it from 3. I just don't think that Illinois can be the best version of itself without their bigs making open threes. And like sometimes, like especially in March, like big guys have a lot of like wear on the tires. You're constantly fighting you're fighting inside, you're fighting for rebounds. Like, do you have the legs to make threes? If you don't, is the offensive rebounding there? Those are some of the kind of like the extra variables I think about with this group, because I think they're going to play some teams if they make the Sweet 16 Elite 8 where you're going to need 6 to 7 to 8 threes from this front line to win that game. And can this group kind of give it to you on those nights?
I'll turn it to you, Mike. You're muted, by the way. So there you go.
Thank you. I would agree with that from Isaac. And to me, my big one is when you come into the NCAA tournament, when you come into postseason play, your strengths have to remain your strengths. You can't. I mean, this team has to be the team that continues to pound you on the glass, because that is what alleviates some of the pressure that they have from being maybe not an elite level defense. And it certainly alleviates the pressure just in case you have that night, which we haven't seen that night many times offensively for this group, but in case you have it, and then maybe you don't have that elite stuff defensively, you have to win on the glass. That has to travel to Chicago. That has to travel to whatever, you know, first round, second round, Sweet 16. That has to travel, period.
Yeah. All right. We can talk about matchups maybe when we get to the NCAA tournament, so I'll skip those. But what's a successful postseason for Illinois? I'll give it to you, Mike, to start us off here.
I agree with Isaac. I'm hard pressed to picture this team not making a second weekend because of the factors we mentioned. I think a successful season, if this team makes a Final Four, absolutely. But I'd even take it another step, or not another step, maybe a step before that. Like if this team gets to an Elite 8 and that Elite 8 game, you leave it and you're like, God damn, played a 1 seed, fought our asses off. We're right there, had it down the stretch or something to that degree.
You're complaining about officials after the game. Like that's
complaining about officials, or like, why didn't we make this one adjustment? Like that would be a success in my eyes too. What can't happen is certainly a loss before the second weekend. That can't happen. But even if you get to the second weekend, whether it be in the Sweet 16, whether it be in the Elite 8, you cannot have this UConn let go of the rope moment. Like that cannot happen. That cannot be the way this season ends for this group, where it's like, I won't go as far to say 30-0 run, but that type of effort to close it out. Like I just want to feel like wherever this team ends up, that when they finish this thing out, and any way, that you're proud of the way they competed and that they finished it.
Yeah, the Michigan game, like that would be disappointing. Like if you had that kind of performance again. Isaac, how about you?
I was thinking the exact same thing. Make the Elite 8, have a really, really competitive type of game against an elite team. Now, I would even pull that back at times too. Matchups are weird. Like I think you could see a Sweet 16 where you will go up against a 3 seed like Alabama, and it's 97-94, and they made 13 threes and you made 11 and you lost. Like Is that a disappointing season? I would have a hard time doing it. I maybe would understand if other people would be disappointed if you make the Sweet 16 and don't advance in a tight game like that. But I still think just putting yourself in position to be on the margins of making the Final Four, like that is the expectation for this group. All the analytics point to this group being able to be in position to make the Final Four. Like that's just what they point to. And you have to go out and play like that for it to be a successful postseason.
I would add, get a win in the Big Ten tournament. Beat Wisconsin. Make sure you wrap up that 2 seed. I think that would be helpful too. Whatever meal I make, it always revolves around the protein. You have to fuel up. You have to get that protein. And of course, for me, it's the most delicious food we can have. So whether you're a smash burger king, or you could eat steak and eggs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner if you could, or you like making that high protein snack in the air fryer with those pre-marinated steak tips, Omaha Steaks is the place to go. They deliver the best everyday protein. Omaha Steaks delivers exceptional options. They have handcrafted steaks, some of the most juicy steaks you'll have, great burgers, chicken, seafood, anything you can think of, Omaha Steaks has it. And right now, you can get 50% off exceptional handcrafted flavor and the convenience of Omaha Steaks during their semi-annual sale. Omaha Steaks offers an exclusive lineup of USDA certified steaks, gourmet burgers, versatile chicken, pork, seafood, and more delivered right to your door. So get 50% off the world's best everyday protein. Go to omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their semi-annual sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code Illini at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code Illini at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. All right, let's jump to the Big Ten, boys. Michigan's the story of the season this year. I think Axel Lenneborg on Tuesday will probably be Big Ten Player of the Year. Fred Hoiberg might win Big Ten Coach of the Year. I think it should be Dusty May. What a season. This is one of the best teams I have seen in my time covering the Big Ten. So I'll give it to you, Mike. Michigan is the best team in the Big Ten since when?
So the way I look at this is always how I look at you almost got to go by era, because in relative dominance, I thought they were obviously very dominant, just like that Wisconsin team was in 2015. And I think, Jeremy, you and I talked about it, like, Wisconsin was perfectly at this intersection of 5-out basketball and had a hub in Frank Kaminsky, and they could all pretty much dribble, pass, shoot. And so it made them really difficult to prepare for. And on the same side here, it's like with the new wave of these jumbo lineups that a lot of these, you look at Florida last year and Auburn playing 2 bigs, sometimes playing 3 bigs, can be really hard to prepare for. And I think that's where Michigan's at this year. And they caught a league this year that, I think knows that's where college basketball's trending, and they were just still a cut above the rest. So I throw that Wisconsin team in there. It's interesting. The 2013, my freshman year, that Michigan team was really freaking good.
Yep.
They finished 5th in the Big Ten and went to the national championship. The Big Ten was nuts that year. And then, those are the 2 that I can think of over the last, and Purdue's. I mean, the Purdue ED teams were certainly dominant. They're up there, but I just think about the era and how much ahead of the curve Wisconsin was, and I feel like Michigan's in that same category.
Yeah, the teams that I was thinking of was that Purdue team with Edie, where it just felt like, well, how many ifs have to go right for you? Well, if we make 11 threes, and if, Coleman Hawkins on the floor and could stretch him out and hit 3 or 4 of those threes, and if we could maybe get him in foul trouble, maybe then you have a chance to win. Like, they just felt almost inevitable. That's kind of how I feel like with Michigan. It's just like you have so many ifs that need to go right for you to win that type of game against a team that has built up such a huge margin for error. The other one too was like, this is way back and early in my Big Ten viewing experience, but I just remember those early 07 Ohio State teams Like that team was crazy with Mike Conley and obviously Greg Oden. But yeah, that's the type of group that Michigan has put themselves into. And remember, like they were 11th in KenPom at the preseason, and they barely beat TCU and barely beat Wake Forest. So their margin of improvement from November to what they were in November, at the end of November and all the way through the rest of the season is crazy. And to be the first Big Ten team to not lose a road game since 1975-76 Indiana is bonkers.
Yeah, I think if you're going since the 04-05 Illini, they got to the national title. Like some of those Michigan teams, I love John Beilein's teams, but they weren't as dominant as Wisconsin in 2015, as Purdue a couple years ago. So I think it's up with that group of teams. And, Purdue was so one player heavy that it just feels like this is more of like a team effort. I mean, Braden was obviously very good, but it all centered around one of the greatest college basketball players we've ever seen, and now he's most dominant in Zach Edey. But that Wisconsin team and this Michigan team, like just the way they do things, the way they impose themselves on opponents, those are the two that really stick out to me. And Ohio State too, but those guys were so much freshmen, and this is a little bit more balanced and veteran heavy, Mike.
Well, there's the thing about hold on. Go to Isaac.
Isaac, you got any final thoughts on that?
The one thing I think too about Michigan that's kind of underrated is just like how many outs that they have. I brought it up with Illinois earlier, but I love that part about their team is like when Kaysen was healthy, Kaysen could go win you a game, and then sometimes Trey McKinney could go in, and then it's a Merez day, and then it's a Mara day, and then it's a Yaks doing Yaks things, and the whole 9 yards. Like that's I think the secret sauce with them is that like, yes, their 3-point shooting isn't good enough some nights. And yes, their turnover rate is something that they're going to be frustrated with at nights. But their other strengths are so stinking dominant that it doesn't even matter. Like that's the beauty of the Dusty May Empire.
All right, Mike's done herding cats. What do you got, Mike?
Yep. I use the word airtight. They're so airtight. I always think about it whenever I look at a team like this. I think back to when I was at Illinois and we prepared for teams. And a lot of times I was on the scout team, and I'm like, I don't know how you have a Michigan scout team.
Yeah.
And I think Illinois is the same. Illinois is the same thing from the standpoint of like, you can maybe try to do this whole scout team on how they play offensively, but until you're in it, it's just different. And same thing with Michigan, like the switching defensively. Yaxel's such a high level communicator. And then as an anchor with Mara, like it's just and I think they've also, and I think I mentioned this a few months ago, but it's still true. I think they've entered such a psychological realm on their opponents where I think I made the correlation of it's like when Aaron Rodgers or Mahomes or Brady throws a pass, like maybe had one misread and threw it directly to a safety or threw it directly to a defensive back, and it just the defensive back catches it 9.9 times out of 10. But on that one, they dropped it because they weren't expecting Rodgers or Brady or those guys to throw a pass like that. So they weren't mentally ready. The same kind of thing is like with Michigan, where just the thought of them alone, teams just start acting different when they get in the paint. Mara might not be in the vicinity, but you're missing layups you wouldn't usually miss. You're rushing shots you wouldn't usually rush. So the elite dominant teams enter that stratosphere where it's like, we're already good as is. And now you got this whole other mental game that you got to overcome too when you're playing us.
All right. Other than Michigan, the Big Ten team most likely to make a Final Four, Isaac, is who?
I think it's actually Illinois. If you talk to rival Big Ten coaches, they're more scared of Illinois than Michigan some nights as well. It's as weird as that sounds. Now, granted, not all assistant coaches are like correct on everything that they say.
I was going to say that is weird.
Yeah, it's weird. Like it's happened multiple times where they're like, and the reason why they go for it is it's like, well, they're just so big, and then they have so many guys who can score, and like that's like I think the biggest concern. I think when you're trying to face against this Illinois team, like other coaches, and Mike has mentioned it too, they're obsessed with David Mirkovich. Like they think that guy is awesome. And then you throw in the Woglers, and then you throw in the Stojakovic, and then you throw in the Avicic boys. That's where I think the correct answer is Illinois. But I will say this. I love how Michigan State is playing right now. I think they are super dialed in with their scouting reports right now. I think that their continuity and like the lineups that they want to play has really started to showcase lately. Kurt Tang is playing his best basketball this season. Jordan Scott has helped them. Jackson Kohler's kind of like, kind of tossed off some of the midseason, struggles that he had a little bit. And then Fears and Carson Cooper have been just super steady for them. So I think Michigan State, if they're on that 2 line and they can stay there, they can certainly make the Final Four because their strengths travel every night. And I just really like where that team is trending.
Yeah, Isaac, I was going to say Michigan State just because I know what I'm getting every night from them. Shooting struggles, sure. Doesn't matter. Like Tom Izzo's teams do what they do. They crash the boards. They play tough defense, and energy and enthusiasm is never a question.
Nasty in transition too. Cohen Carr in transition. Oh my Lord.
Mike, you got anything?
Yeah, I'll add to Michigan State because I do agree with Trotter. I think Illinois, if I had to pick a second team, it would be Illinois. But I do think with Michigan State, I mean, the shooting, they're almost 36% from 3 this year.
Yeah.
But the shooting is solid. They don't take a ton of them, but the shooting is solid. Like I think I've gotten to the point as the season's gone on where I was really concerned that they didn't have like a secondary creator or something, but I think Fears is good enough for 2 creators. I really do. And I think they don't get bogged down in the half court a ton. I mean, they still do, but they really understand that because there are limitations for them offensively, that they do need to run and they do need to try to find better opportunities in transition. So, yeah, I mean, you could definitely see, I thought they were a little outmatched against Auburn last year. So if Michigan State gets on the 2 line, if there's a 1 that gets upset in the Sweet 16, like I think Michigan State could put whatever team meets them in the Elite 8 into the freaking grinder.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the advanced analytics, Michigan State has played up to competition better than any other team in the Big Ten. And that kind of checks out eye test wise. Like they had Duke like dead to rights multiple times too. So yeah, that's a team that I feel a lot better about now than I did 6 weeks ago.
All right, a couple more quick ones. Biggest surprise success in the Big Ten, Mike LaTulip, is who?
I'm not even sure it's close. Like, honestly, Michigan's level of dominance, I think we all thought they'd be really good. This was like, 19-1 and beating everybody by 40 was especially how the season started. You brush with death against TCU, against Wake Forest, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, they're just like one of the best teams we've ever seen. It's Nebraska. And it's just, and to me, it's not close. Surprise success, right?
Yes.
Nebraska. Yeah, it's. I think the level of play that they've gotten out of Price Sanford, who I think has played like no doubt first team All Big Ten type of player. I think the continuity was obviously big, but seeing that with Jamarcus Lawrence coming back, the role like what Sam Hoiberg has turned into has been pretty incredible. And then you've done it all with, I think, Rink Mast Rink Mast is not, I don't think anyone would be like, that is their best player. And I think we thought that would probably be the case coming in the year, but he's a lot of times been their 3rd best guy behind Sanford and Frager. So it's got to be Nebraska for that group right there. For look at all the teams that have a top 10 defense, and they're a bunch of athletic freaks and like high floor athletic freaks. It's the 5th ranked defense in America, and they are certainly not the most physically imposing group. So that to me, that's the biggest surprise.
And none of it is 3-point variance. Like the type of shots that they are forcing, yeah, it's a lot of threes, and yeah, teams don't shoot threes, but they are forcing a ton of contested shots. I think
low quality. It's
very low quality. I think Sam Hoiberg is a legit first team all defense guy in the Big Ten. I think Berkday Benyuktensel has been really good defensively for them as well with some of his length and activity and size. But I think the whole season and why they're such a big, unbelievable story is the Price Sanford eval. That was a guy that they absolutely nailed that eval, and they've gotten the best version out of him, and he has turned himself into one heck of a player. I'm part of the portal ranking teams with 247. We totally whiffed on that. We had it as Josh Dix. He was in the top 150, but out of Iowa guys, we had Josh Dix ahead of him, and we had Owen Freeman ahead of him. Looking back, Dix I would still rank ahead of Sanford, but Sanford's been a better player than Josh Dix so far this year.
Yeah, for sure. All right, flip side of that, biggest disappointment in the Big Ten. Isaac?
There's a lot. For me, I actually look at Washington. That was a roster that was stacked with talent, just stacked. You you think you get a hit in Hannes Steinbach, who has had one of the most productive seasons we've seen from a freshman big man in Big Ten history. But Desmond Claude, getting in the Desmond Claude business was a mistake. Wesley Yates getting hurt a lot was the frustration point of it. I didn't think their roster ever really meshed together. Every time I watch Washington, they look discombobulated. And it's a group that is one of the more higher paid rosters in the Big Ten, and they are finishing, let me check. They finished below Minnesota. Great work. Like that, even with all the injuries, that just cannot happen.
Mike, what you got?
Washington was up there for me, but I'll stick in the Pacific Northwest. It's Oregon for me. I just think when we talked about having outs, this Oregon team had no outs once Shellstad went down. And so that's, they certainly went to the portal. They tried to get a little bit more athletic. But the problem is you left yourself a really slim margin for error because once Shellstad went down, I mean, this thing just, and really kind of when he was there, but when he went down, this thing went completely off the rails. So who knows? This could be the last year for Dana Altman, whether it's retirement or elsewhere, but they may need a little bit new life over there in Eugene.
I'm going to make the case for a team just on a way different tier. Can we put Purdue in this mix? Number
I
one,
thought about it.
Number one preseason team. I know they're probably going to be a number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, but they just finished 6th in the Big Ten. They have 5 losses at Mackey this year. And this team, like, since the mid-January when they went to UCLA, like, this team has just not looked right. They are 6-7 since then. Just so heading into March Madness, this was like the number 1 team in the country, Final Four contender. And Braden Smith has not had the year we thought he would have. Trey Kaufman-Renn has not had the year we thought they would have. I mean, this team returned 4 of 5 starters, right, from last year. So, Mike, it's just a weird team. Like, I know they started off great, 17-1. That's going to get them to a 3 seed, maybe a 4 seed if they don't win in the Big Ten tournament. But that's a huge disappointment for what we expected out of that team.
Huge. I mean, I think if you ask Purdue fans, they'd probably say that Purdue has been the biggest disappointment just relative to what the expectations were. So the defense, I mean, you watch that Wisconsin game and they just relentlessly, once they got the switch that led to having Lawyer and Clough or Lawyer and Jacobson or Meyer and Jacobson or Meyer and Clough in action, like they just bludgeoned it. And so I also think with Mackey, there's something to be said about this new portal era. I just think like people aren't really afraid of Mackey anymore. And I don't even think it's like we don't respect you. They just kind of like whether it's the international guys coming into this league or something, like they don't know about Mackey. Like to them, it's obviously a great environment, but they don't know about it from the standpoint of like having a senior and a junior tell the sophomore and the freshman, like, man, when you go in there, like that's always half that's always like half the mystique is like being told by someone else who lost there by 15 or 20, like that game just got out of hand when we went in there. Like the crowd's so loud. I watched Nick Boyd go in there. I watched Keaton go in there. Like these guys, they don't view home court like that. On the flip side of that, I think people view State Farm Center the same way.
Yeah,
to a degree. So I don't know. I mean, there's certain venues in college basketball that maybe are tougher to play at than others, but I think with all the mobility in college basketball, I don't think it means as much to the players in terms of like where they're going into and how hard it is to play there.
One extra point with Purdue that I just think a lot about sometimes is like this was a 13-7 Big Ten team that brought back 4 or 5 starters and finished 13-7. So maybe they are who we thought they were. Like that's something that I've thought about with them, or maybe they are who they were and we just kind of hyped it up because we love retention amid this era of portal and everything. And like, so those are some things I think about. Miscalculations with that Purdue team, I think in the offseason are certainly rounding into form. The lack of perimeter defenders that they trust is huge. I don't think they have great wing athletes. Losing Cam Heide is kind of a big loss for them now. Losing Miles Colvin turned out to be a big loss for them. And Daniel Jacobson didn't have the redshirt freshman year that they expected. The other thing too, though, like I don't want to maybe blame the margins for that. I firmly And maybe I'm a Braden Smith fan, or super fan, but I put a lot of this on Fletcher Lawyer and Trey Kaufman-Renn. I think both of those two dudes did not help them enough this year. And honestly, at times it felt like their veterans let them down more than some of the complimentary guys. And that's probably why Purdue isn't the bully of the Big Ten.
I think the assessment of the complimentary guys is why we're at where we're at right now. Like, I think, I talked about this back in, this, Trotter, the Omer Meyer hype, because he went off in U19. It's just, I think everybody's was baking Omer Meyer into the equation. They're baking Daniel Jacobson into the equation, who I wasn't really high on either. And part of that is, it was almost like a Ben Humrickhout situation with Jacobson. Now, Jacobson's been not very good. Ben has been, since Ben has come to Illinois, Ben has been better than Jacobson because he just knows the role that he needs to play. But there were some like split graphic, side-by-side graphics of like, this is how Edey started his career, and this is how Jacobson started. Like, that's not fair at all. Because Jacobson isn't in the same stratosphere as Zach Edey, and it changes
players in college basketball.
Like, oh, we got one of the best college basketball point guards. We got Fletcher Lawyer. We got Trey Kaufman-Renn. And then we got this 7'4" guy. And even the Clough thing. I mean, I talked about Clough before the season too. Like, you got to grade Clough on the Washington State scale, not on the South Dakota State scale. That's more of what you're getting in Clough. And I just think they had a good year last year. And then when the new pieces came in, it's like, whoa, we get taken to this next level. And that's just, I didn't really think that was ever the case with those particular complementary parts. And then, some of the Braden stuff has been weird this year. Like
all of it.
Off the court stuff.
Those top three guys, it's been weird. It's just weird.
I get what you're saying, but like at the same time, if I told you in the preseason that Braden Smith would go 15, 9, and 3, shoot 39% from 3, 50% on twos, 83% at the line with a 43% assist rate, I think we'd all be like, yeah, first team All-American.
Yeah, like I know some people didn't have him first team All Big Ten. I still had him first team All Big Ten. It's just the dynamic was weird. They did not seem like they were having fun. Like, they just don't seem like they're having fun right now, Mike.
No, and you could see it in post-game interviews. Like, even after getting wins, it was kind of just. But what's funny is when things started to go really south for them, I actually thought Trey Kaufman-Renn was like their hardest playing guy.
Yeah,
like out of nowhere, he just started rebounding at a high level again and getting after it defensively, even though he's very limited on that side. And then it felt like they were never really on the same page. And I know Braden, I'm not saying Braden's like hunting assists, but there is a record that's in reach for him. And there's times where I feel like he needs to be like, I think Braden Smith should take at least 15 field goal attempts a game. Be aggressive from the standpoint of like, man, I got to almost think Braden Smith's coming off every screen to score. And then from there, he can dime dudes up. Like, I feel like and it's what good point guards do, trying to get everybody involved and everything, but they don't have enough around him for him not to be like, all right, man, it's me. And if it's not me, then I'm setting the table.
All right, let's move through these last two quick, and then we'll do our Big Ten tournament draft. Program that needs a coaching change most in the Big Ten. Who you got, Isaac?
Penn State. I think that Penn State feels like a pretty dire program right now. Huge buyout too for Mike Rhodes, so I think they're kind of like in it, and it just is what it is. That group, they feel like miles away from competing in this league, especially the Super Conference era.
And it was, man, two good coaches before that, right? Like, they had two pretty good coaches that had at least a relative level of success. Mike, who you got?
I think I agree with Penn State, but there's also a part of me where, like, I feel like who they hire next, it's just
doesn't matter.
I feel like it's going to be a lot of the same. And I think Shrewsbury, that's like what they did with that 2023 team. That feels like peak.
Yes.
Penn State basketball. It's Oregon for me. I just think there's so much there from a resource standpoint. There's so much there from a branding standpoint that I really feel like someone can come in there and turn that program into a program that we're actually factoring into towards the top of the Big Ten, because it just hasn't been that the last few years.
Yeah, I think it's time. He had a great run.
Yeah.
I just think it's time, and I think it's right now, Isaac, would be the best job on the market if Oregon opened up.
I agree with that because especially Ohio State looks like it's probably not going to open up now that Jake Diebler has played its way into the NCAA tournament. So yeah, Oregon isn't. The one dynamic there with that is that, yeah, you're in a Nike school at Oregon, but there are a few other Nike schools ahead of you in the pecking order for basketball. So that's one extra factor at Oregon. But yeah, no question. I think there's a lot of really good coaches that are at high major jobs that would crawl through the glass to go coach at Oregon.
Let's go, Mike. Program most ready to take a big leap in the Big Ten next season.
I mean, I think I said Nebraska like 2-3 years ago, so I'm feeling really good about that. But if I take a big leap, Minnesota. I think it's Minnesota, and big leap for them would be, are you a surefire NCAA tournament team next year with aspirations of maybe getting to a second weekend? I think Nico Medved is an unbelievable coach. And I think you could see the environment coming back a little bit this year. You could see I just love the way they play. I know they got their doors blown off by Indiana a couple days ago, but I love where that's trending. Whereas some of these other schools that are in the middle towards the bottom, I don't like where that's trending.
Minnesota was the one that I had written down too. A simple analysis here, but once Nico Medved gets a roster with more than 4 high major players, I think that they're going to probably be pretty good. So that is certainly one thing there. And then I think the other one too is, I'm curious about Iowa. I think that if they can get a little bit added personnel there's a chance for them to be good. They've been on the doorstep of being good this year, but right now they're kind of a middle of the pack team, but we'll see the type of personnel that they can get in there. I like some of the young guys that they have. I think Tate Sage is a really, really good player. And if they can keep some of the younger guys there and then add in, splash from the portal at the lead guard spot and kind of trust your development, I think you could see Iowa finishing near the top of the league again.
It's kind of interesting. Those 3 new hires all finished right in a row. Iowa 10-10, Indiana 9-11, Minnesota 8-12. I think if you're Iowa, you feel great because outside of Bennett Sturtz, I don't know about that roster, right? So I think the coaching was really, really good. Minnesota, they were just flirting with more upsets throughout the year, playing above their weight. Indiana's the one where I'm like, it's kind of the same thing. Spent a lot of money. Roster was not that great. Lamar Wilkerson, huge hit, but the rest of it, not great.
Yeah, I think that the decision to go small in this era of the Big Ten was not wise. They chose to go small, and that obviously did not work out well. They also need more juice at the point guard spot. There's multiple times where I felt like their point guard play just was not at the level of this league this year when there's just so many awesome guards. And so Indiana has some really good recruits on the doorstep, like a couple of guys that I've really liked in my limited time watching high school basketball. But we'll see. We'll kind of see what they can get going. I think DeVries is a good coach, but yeah, I feel like no question, like this year's a major disappointment, even if they find a way to sneak their way into the worst bubble of all time.
Are they in, Mike?
Yeah, no notes. That's I agree there.
All right, let's get to our Big Ten tournament draft, and we'll get you guys the heck out of here. But here's how we do it. We do a draft. We pick one team, go through it, snake order, and for every win, you get a point. Just a fun way to kind of break down who we think is actually going to get wins in this Big Ten tournament. So I have the bracket up live on our YouTube here right now. Isaac, I'm going to give you the first pick. I'll take second. Mike, you get the turn, which I think is probably the best place to be. So we'll honor you with that. All right, let's get going. Isaac Trotter, first pick in the Big Ten tournament draft. Who you got?
So after disparaging them, I will now take Purdue because I like the draw. I think that if they get Indiana in their first game, that they can win that one. I think they match up just fine with Nebraska. And then they have a chance again against a Michigan State. They kind of avoid the Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin kind of trio there. So I think Purdue soul searching for that group. And if they can find it again a little bit, I think they have a path here to reel off 2 or 3 in this tournament.
I don't hate it because usually it's like, who's the most motivated? I think Purdue should have a lot of motivation going into this tournament. I'm not going to overthink this. I'm taking the best team, Michigan. Yeah. I'm taking them number 2. I just think they're a tough matchup. I think they're motivated. That looks like a team that wants to win everything that is in front of it right now. So not going to overthink it. Went with the Wolverines. All right, Mike, you got the turn back-to-back picks here.
I see. I disagreed with you, Jeremy, because I think the turn kind of sucks right now. Because
really?
Yeah, because I think Wisconsin's playing so well. UCLA is playing so well, so taking Illinois or taking Michigan State feels kind of tough. It's like my mind is drifting towards Northwestern, thinking that they could get 2 wins. I think they could beat Penn State and beat Washington. So I'll maybe table that. Give me you know what? I hate this. I love this, but I hate this. Give me Michigan State.
I was going to say that's why I like that turn. I thought Michigan State's a good pick there.
And give me Illinois.
Look at you.
That could be your Big Ten championship game matchup right there.
Why
Sunday
Illinois?
CBS.
Why Illinois? I just think that game against Wisconsin had no business winning that game. I just think, I think they'll be better prepared this time around with Kylan Boswell on the floor to guard the likes of, and I do think the Nolan Winter injury at some point, and we'll see what happens with it. I think at some point that's going to catch up to them a little bit. It's just amazing. Like I don't believe that Bielyauskas and Rapp can shoot like this in big games every single time, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't hate this draw for Illinois because should be the most motivated they will be against these two teams. You get a revenge game.
Get a revenge game in the tournament. Yeah,
potentially 2 of them. All right, number 5. I'm going to go with Iowa. I like them against Maryland and Oregon, and then potentially against Iowa State. I just think they're so disciplined in what they do. They'll kind of grind those games out. They could lose the first game to Maryland because I think Maryland's feeling good about itself, but I like those first 2 matchups, so I'm going to go Iowa there. Isaac, you get 2 picks in a row here.
Good pick. I was going to go Iowa too. I'll go UCLA, even though I don't trust them in the Central Standard Time Zone, but they are playing really well right now. I think they've found their identity. They've actually pivoted to the lineup that I always wanted them to play, with Xavier Booker coming off the bench and going 3 guards with Bilodeau and Daly up front. So that's a win, I think, in the first round, even if they get Minnesota. Then next, man, this is tough. Ohio State's been playing a little bit better lately. I don't know if I can really go there when they have to walk into Michigan. That's a terrible matchup for them. So I will go with Northwestern. I think that there is a path for them to reel off a couple in a row. That's a group that I still like how they're playing. I think their young guys are keepers, no doubt.
All right, so we haven't picked Wisconsin yet as the 5 seed, even though they will get a good team there early and potentially Illinois. So that's a team that I'm considering. Nebraska is the 2 seed in this or 3 seed, 2 seed in this tournament. We haven't picked them quite yet, but I'm going to go with a team we just talked about, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Minnesota has Rutgers in the first game. I love that matchup for them. And then UCLA, the second round. You just mentioned the Central Time Zone there, Isaac. So I'm going to go with Minnesota and a favorite there. So back-to-back for me of Iowa and Minnesota. Not the most talented teams, but I like the draw.
Well coached.
Mike, your last 2 picks here.
Yeah, lesson learned. Don't tip your hand and give your strategy why you want to pick Northwestern and then not pick them. So disappointing, but good on you, Trotter. I will go I just feel like I'm going with all the big dogs.
Big dogs got to eat.
Give me Nebraska. Give me Nebraska.
Motivated. They should be motivated. I mean, that program wants to win this as bad as anyone.
Yes, absolutely.
Good pick. You got one more, Mike.
Let's go. No one picked Indiana, right?
No.
All right, I'm gonna go Indiana.
They get either Northwestern or Penn State that first game, and then potentially match up Purdue. That'd be a fun atmosphere.
Yep.
Thursday, Indiana against Purdue. Trotter, you got one more pick, but I got Michigan, Iowa, and Minnesota. By the way, Mike wraps up with Michigan State, Illinois, Nebraska, 3 of the top 4 seeds there, and Indiana, the home state team. I have Michigan, Iowa, Minnesota. I will wrap up with Wisconsin because I do think they'll win their first game. I think it'll be against Washington. And then Illinois, probably a toss-up game. And they're one of the few teams that has beaten Michigan this year. So I will go with Wisconsin. Isaac, your last pick. Who you want?
I'll take Washington. I think USC is a little bit just snake bitten right now. Chad Baker-Mazar is obviously gone. Washington should be able to win that first game. And then, if they get Wisconsin in that second round game, I'm just hoping and praying that all of the Wisconsin bigs don't make every single 3. And so maybe Washington's guard play can kind of hold serve there. Because at the same time, like Yates and Zoom Diallo, like for all of the issues, they play hard. And Steinbach against that Wisconsin front line, I think he could certainly give them issues. So maybe the pathway to 2.
Yeah. So the teams we didn't take, 6 of them, Penn State, Maryland, Oregon, didn't have enough confidence in either of those teams against each other. USC, Rutgers, and Ohio State. I want to take Ohio State playing pretty well.
Ohio State is a terrible matchup against Michigan. Like that's like the worst matchup.
Yeah.
All right. How you guys feel? Isaac, you got Purdue, UCLA, Northwestern, and Washington. I got Michigan, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Mike got Michigan State, Illinois, Nebraska, and Indiana. I think Mike might have. I mean, I have Michigan, but Mike might have the other teams with the best chance to win.
There were some cop out picks from me. I mean, I went with the highest seeds. That's embarrassing.
That's all right. All right, boys. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys joining us. As always, it was fun. Happy postseason, boys. Mike, thank you, bud.
Hey, thank you guys.
Isaac, thank you, man.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
Great stuff as always from Mike LaTulip and Isaac Trotter. We appreciate their time. A long one, but a fun one, previewing this postseason both for Illinois, recapping the regular season for both Illinois and the Big Ten, and looking ahead to the Big Ten tournament. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button down below, subscribe to us, and hit the notifications bell so you're notified whenever we have a new video, whenever we go live in our post-game podcast. Check all that out on our YouTube channel. If you're listening on our podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, follow us, rate us, review us. And if you're not a VIP member, sign up now. 50% off, save more than $60 of savings for all of our content at IlliniInquirer.com. I got the latest on Illinois' pursuit of a 2026 guard that is absolutely blown up here and is now free on the market yet again. I have takeaways from Illinois, Maryland, and we have caught up with a lot of Illinois football coaches and transfers as we get ready for spring ball. Joey Wagner going to have a piece on Caton Hauser, the quarterback transfer here very, very shortly. We'll have pieces on the defensive line transfers, wide receiver transfers as well. All coming up at IlliniInquirer.com. But for Mike LaTulip and Isaac Trotter, I'm Jeremy Werner. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you next time right here on the Illini Inquirer Podcast.
Bye, everybody.